Hello and welcome to Manibil. I'm taking a little time here to comment on a recent video by a channel called Theories of Everything with Curt Jaimungal. And he has previously done a few interviews of Bernardo Kastrup. And it's usually something about, hardcore philosophy or hardcore science or sort of the deeper end of things. So he's worth checking out the channel, right? He has more than a few followers. He has about 1,000 times more viewers or subs than I have. So that's not an argument in itself, right? But it's a decently good channel. I can recommend you check it out, right? Okay. With that said, the participants this time is Bernardo Kastrup and Tim Maudlin. And they, you know about Bernardo Kastrup, of course, because you have seen a lot of my deconstructions and you know where he's, you have an idea about Bernardo Kastrup. Tim Maudlin, on the other hand, I'm not too familiar with, right? And I suspect that you might not be either. And they're going to discuss, the recent, I was about to say Oscar nomination, but Nobel Prize for Physics in about non-locality of whatever objects in out in that, fabled reality, whatever, right? That if you measure something, you're not measuring something, you're measuring a bigger picture of something, right? So there's not the local object there, it's spread out in fields or something like that, right? Okay, so they're going to discuss this topic, right, apparently. But because I am not familiar with Tim Maudlin, and I'm not really too deep into that anyway, but in this in this particular case, it might be a good idea to get a grab on what he is and what he stands for. So I'm jumping over Bernardo's self-introduction and jumping to the around the 6-minute mark to Tim Maudlin's presentation of what he does, right? Okay, and then we'll take it from there.
I think 3 years. I was on a holiday, so now I have to compensate.
Professor Maudlin, people already know about the John Bell Institute because it will be in the introduction, but even though it will be there, can you please outline what it is and what your ongoing challenges are and why it's important for physics for there to be an institute like this?
Sure, I'd be glad to. So it's the John Bell Institute for the Foundations of Physics, and it's devoted to the foundations of physics, which is a field that, as I like to say, is a kind of orphan in terms of the standard academic structure of universities, because physics departments don't teach courses in foundations of physics, and the people who do it are divided among physics departments, math departments, and philosophy departments. So
I'm jumping in here, and I think that actually sounds like that sounds like a good approach, right? Now, it's the old problem of philosophy and science, where science has been shut off from philosophy hundreds of years ago, right? And philosophy have become the weird old guy in the corner, right? Looking like a half-dead Socrates or something like that, right? And science is, the young, we want to build bridges and make rockets and, Elon Musk and, so it's sort of this, I'm framing it a bit, right? But maybe it's time to sort of get back to the roots of things and see, okay, if we are running into problems at the edge of science at the moment, maybe we have some old baggage we need to care for, or take care of and check out, right? So it seems to me that in the last, according to my understanding of how philosophy, though it's academic philosophy, has been doing the last 30, 40 years, there's a tendency to sort of go back and take metaphysics and ontology more serious, right? And there's a tendency maybe also for physics and science to go back to the roots and see maybe we might want to go back and take a look at the foundations, right? And if my money is going to pay for scientists, I would like there to be some, if I can't stop them from taking my money and creating universities and educating, dildo polishing feminists with it, well, then I would like them to use it on foundations of physics, for instance. I would appreciate that, right? So, I mean, I'm sympathetic to his ideas here, right?
Oh, it just doesn't really have a home. And so what I was basically trying to do was find a home for it. The governing board by charter has two physicists, two mathematicians, and two philosophers. So we're trying to bring in people with these different backgrounds and provide a venue in which they can talk to each other.
But it's still the old club, right? It's the professor club. It's the the elite, the academic elite, right? It's not. I mean, it's. I don't like the idea that everybody should necessarily have a say about everything, but you can't shut people up, right? And there is a notion, to me at least, right? Not being a part of academics, that you are not really taken seriously unless you have the papers. And who are giving you the papers? The same club that you want to be a part of, right? So it's sort of it smells of nepotism or, compartmentalization in a, what's it called? It's a Freemason style, right? You can get into the club if you can get one of the club members to, right, advance you. You can't just have an opinion. You have to be particularly selected to be able to have an opinion about what is going on. But at the end of the day, it's all us little people out here, right? Who's living in reality and, forced to pay taxes to support the system. Who's going to have whatever effect will roll out from whatever these people can think up, right? So I would like to be able to say, for instance, no thank you to paying for something I don't find to be of my personal interest, right? If I don't want a philosophy department somewhere, I don't want to pay for it, right? I can think for myself, thank you very much, right? I can figure out myself what to spend my money on, right? So there's an underlying structure that is never mentioned at any time in any form of academia. It's a no-go, right? It's we are colleagues. We are in the club. We are not going to, challenge the power structure that sort of is the underlying foundations for how this can function at all, right? If the government is not there to protect them, much of it would go away because people wouldn't pay for it simply, right? So that's what I'm concerned about, right? Forcing people to pay for something they're not interested in so they can't pay for other things that they're actually interested in, like getting on an interesting summer holiday with their children, for instance. No, they have to pay for some, physics department or a hard-on collider or whatever, right? And this is, in that regard, this is a very, very interesting interview, right? Or debate, because it illuminates the supposed importance of being able to say, I don't want to participate, right? But it seems to me that academics can only see what they themselves don't want to participate in. They can't see that the little people who are paying taxes, or paying, which is, also a misnomer, right? They're being stolen from to force to pay for a system so they can go and become academics, right?
And have workshops and have summer schools. The physical place right now, I'm in the middle of trying to secure a physical location for it in Croatia. And we're trying to raise funds and maybe be able to partner with the University of Split, if we're lucky, to do that, and then just provide a home for it, because it doesn't have a home. Nobody, it's just hasn't fit into the curriculum, and doesn't fit in many normal funding channels. Like if you go to the National Science Foundation and look for money for something like this, it just, it doesn't fit in the programs they have set up. So, I've been doing that for the last 5 years. It was first getting the people together, which is the most important thing. And now this logistical part of trying to find a physical location where we can set up, which we have the location, but we need to see if we can acquire it. So all of that's going on right now, and we'll.
I just want to add that, and it's nothing particular, has to do with this particular what he's talking about. My criticism of academia in general is not particularly coined towards Tim Maudlin or to Bernardo Kastrup in particular, right? It's just the general way the system is set up, right? And sometimes the case is that you might participate in this system. You are brainwashed into participating in this system. As a child, you think that it's all virtuous because all parents, they love it and they support it and say, oh, without the government or without the academia, who should do all the magic thinking and so on, right? So if you become a part of it and then hear some criticism like, taxation is theft or something like that, then it's sort of, cognitive dissonance and so on, right? So it's not a particular criticism of, either of these two guys, right? Though they are sort of participating in the system, you could say, right? But I don't know the setup of, for instance, this university. It sounds like it's based on voluntary support, right? That some people want to support this. I can only say more power to you. I love that idea, right? Go and ask people if they want to support it. And if they say no, thank you, respect that, right? Avoid going to the government and saying, you should pay for this. I have an idea, government pay, right? Which is the little people's money, right? So, as far as it can be rolled out with voluntary support, I'm all, more power to you, right?
We'll see how it comes out.
And links to all of what's been mentioned will be in the description, as usual.
And there's also the problem of, if you are being paid by government, you're not going to end up criticizing government in any case, right? You don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? So that's why government can keep going, because people are made dependent on government in order to get whatever it is they're getting, right? They don't criticize whatever they're doing in other instances that has nothing to do particularly maybe with, let's say you have a whatever organization and you get some government support, right? You're not going to criticize the support of, obviously, right? But if government goes and do something else somewhere else that you don't like, you're not going to criticize that either, because if you do that, then government may come back and say, hey, I don't think you need our money anymore, right? So there's this lock-in effect. As soon as you get hooked up with government, you have become a ring wraith in Lord of the Rings terminology, right? You have been hooked. This sort of bait and switch, right? You've been hooked into protection, and now you're not going to criticize that which protects you, right? So avoid government at all costs, right?
Bernardo did the 2022 Nobel Prize disprove so-called local realism. Why or why not? And then, Tim, you'll respond afterward.
I can only speak for my own perspective, because in Foundations of Physics, you can find people espousing any position with this regard. Some think it disproved nothing, some think it disproved only locality, some think...
So you can find a vast array of different interpretations of the results here. So that is probably a good thing, right? If everybody agrees on something, there might be a problem somewhere, right? Then I would be saying, hey, aren't there anybody you're criticizing this? Is everybody really agreeing on this, right? Isn't it a good thing that people disagree? I would say so. Then you can start to. It's this. I have this. He likes when everything is settled, right? There's only one thing, and that is mind, and you can't criticize it because there's only one thing. Criticism is also mind, so it's everything mind, right? He doesn't like discrepancies, like people having different opinions and so on, right? Though he just said, well, this is my opinion, right? So it's sort of also this passive-aggressive kind of thing he has going, right? Oh, this is just my opinion. And then he sort of says, oh, there's all these other opinions, they can't agree on this, right? So this confusion says a lot about how stupid materialism is, right? Ugh.
I think it disproved physical realism, some think it disproved both. My personal position is that it did disprove not only locality, but physical realism. And I say physical realism because I'm a realist. I just don't think that reality as it is in itself is amenable to description by physical quantities. So I think physicality is the result of measurement, but there is an objective thing that is measured. It's just not amenable to physical description. I think that has been proven. Physical realism in particular, I mean, everybody talks about.
There is a physical objective thing, but you can't measure it in a physical. How do you get to that? How do you do that? It's just, yeah. I have come up with the idea that there's some physical objective. In this sense, I don't even understand what objective is. If you have to measure it, how can it be objective? Because then it's based on a measurement, not the object. The measurement is not the object, right? If I measure a cow, I might say this measurement is very objective or something like that. But it's not the cow, right? I'm just, they seem to be, it's a serious problem with this Bernardo Kastrup guy. He seems to be caught up in endless loops of imagination where he's lost in translation somehow, right? And that's a big problem because it's a part of the problem, at least, right, that it's sufficiently confusing so that you keep coming back to try to understand what he's saying. And the more times you keep coming back, the more likely it is you're going to fall into the trap of whatever it is he's trying to push on you, right?
It's about Bell inequalities, but there are Tony Leggett's inequalities as well from his paper in Foundations of Physics 2003. And some of those inequalities that have been experimentally shown now to be the case, they sort of zero in on physical realism, independent of locality. And those inequalities have been shown to be the case. So, large classes of non-local hidden variables theories have been refuted. I mean, based on those experiments alone, you could say, well, Bohmian mechanics is still in the race, but there are so many other excellent reasons to get rid of, to not even consider Bohmian mechanics. Like, it doesn't have a relativistic extension, and arguably any relativistic extension of Bohmian mechanics would destroy the particle nature, the marble-like nature of particles in Bohmian mechanics and extend everything back to fields. So, I think physical realism and locality are both disproven unless one is prepared to entertain sometimes grotesque theoretical fantasies.
All right, Professor.
Okay, grotesque physical, what is it? Grotesque physical fantasy, something like that, right? Okay, so he is sort of stabbing at the other guy, right? Who might be sort of more into physical realism of some kind, right? It's a stab with a spear, right? physical, ridiculous fantasies, whatever, something like that. He's sort of ridiculing it a bit, right? So he's already, he's framing his own position by ridiculing the other part, at least to some extent, I would say, right? These are ridiculous, right? So he's poisoning the well, you could say. It's a poisoning the well fallacy that before you have clarified what the actual argument is, you're calling it ridiculous in some sense or another, right? So he's poisoning the well here before the other guy gets. So he's sort of trying to annoy him a bit, right? Get him in on his catching him on his wrong foot or whatever. So, and you know, in these kinds of debates, I don't. I mean, if it can go on for 3 hours or something like that, right? They would have the time to elaborate on these things, but maybe then it's not a good idea to start out saying they're ridiculous on the other side, right? It's going to pull down it's going to make the other part put up the fences, right? Rather than opening up and try to explain. So,
my response. That was silly. I mean, it's just what he said was just silly.
Okay,
how could
that's not the best argument either, right? But it's a response to Bernardo just calling it's a ridiculous physical whatever, right? So he's saying, okay, all this silliness, but what he does is he starts out by saying it's silly, and then he tries to explain why, right? Bernardo Kastrup explains his own position, and then he says the other guys are silly. So Bernardo Kastrup doesn't explain first what it is he's doing, or calling it ridiculous or whatever, and then explain why it's ridiculous. This guy says Bernardo Kastrup's position is silly, and then he's going to apparently explain why he means that, or he thinks that, right?
Have a theory. You have actually several theories. The GRW theory will predict the results of these experiments. The many worlds theory will predict the results of these experiments insofar as you can understand it. A pilot wave theory, whether you're using particles or fields, you can have a pilot wave theory using fields if you prefer them. That'll predict the results of these experiments. They're all non-local theories. The experiments refute locality. How could a physical experiment refute whatever? I don't know what you mean by physical realism, that there's a physical world. How could you do that?
Yeah,
all
exactly.
Of those theories.
That's actually a good point, in my opinion. If you have an experiment, isn't the experiment local then? Well, isn't it local, right? And then that local experiment proves there's no locality. Well, then you have destroyed your experiment. Then you're not showing anything. Maybe that's what I'm hearing this Tim Maudlin guy say. He's actually pretty, skeptical about what Bernardo dude there trying to prove, right? It's like, it's this, that recurring thing about idealists, that this standing in the bucket and trying to lift yourself up. Yes, I will make an experiment that contradicts the thing I'm trying to prove, and thereby I can prove or disprove, right? So if you have an experiment, it must be local. Otherwise, it cannot be a fucking experiment, right? And then the experiments disproves locality. That sounds freaking stupid to me also, right? And I'm being a little more outright in my classifications, yeah, right?
Can describe the laboratory in purely physical terms, can give you dynamics for the things in purely mathematical physical terms, and will predict exactly what happened. So the results of those experiments cannot conceivably refute physical reality or physical realism, whatever you mean by that, because they're predicted by clear physical theories.
So that's stupid. That's just stupid.
It's all it refutes.
That's stupid. No. That's not stupid. That's actually serious observation. That must be based on empiricism. He's appealing to empiricism and theories, right? And theories based on empiricism. And if those theories are not contradicted, they still hold the idea of empiricism as a kind of reality. That's not stupid, right? It's stupid to say I have a local experimental setup that is going to disprove locality, right?
It's
have
just
non-local theories.
completely stupid.
I'm sorry, let me finish. You have non-local theories like a pilot wave theory that's clearly non-local, collapse theory that's clearly non-local. They predict these results. Period. So the
So
result
that's
cannot
just
repeat those
stupid.
theories.
Okay, hold on.
That's just stupid. Holy crap, man. Oh, right? Maybe he's losing it here, right? Well, he's just starting to call him stupid. Yeah. Bernardo Kastrup started out referring to crazy physical theories, right? Handing the ball over to him and say, okay, he says, okay, that's silly, right? As a response to Bernardo calling him something. Implicitly, he's not calling the person something, right? But calling whatever theories he might support, right? And then he says silly, and now Bernardo calls him basically stupid, right? I mean, Bernardo Kastrup is acting like a little snowflake, spoiled princess, right? And no, you're stupid. Is this what you want to force me to pay for? Academics like this? And I'm particularly talking about Bernardo Kastrup here, right? Oh yes, we need PhDs over here. We need PhDs and a lot of money for our Hadron Collider. Yes, we need them because you're stupid. So just give us the money and shut the fuck up, right? You're an insignificant little dissociation. Just give me your fucking money, right? But I'm going to call this guy stupid, right? And he said silly, so then I don't want to associate anymore. No, I don't like this.
Professor, you're finished?
Yeah.
Okay.
Curt, I'm not sure I want to do this. Somebody who already starts by saying this is just silly. When 80%.
So he didn't start, right? He responded to Bernardo Kastrup's classifications of these weird physical theories, right? And he responded by saying it's silly. Well, it is silly. And he's basically, as I hear it, he's mainly talking about the conclusions about non-locality proofs from a local experiment. That is silly. That's a silly, And yeah, okay, silly. I mean, if you want to use the most pleasant, what's the term I'm looking for? Insult, right? The most pleasant insult you can make, then saying something is silly, is basically the most, the nicest insult you can make, right? But then Bernardo Kastrup goes all in because he can't handle the truth, right? He can't handle a debate with somebody else with a different opinion, right? And I expect actually that he's afraid of, for instance, that many world theory, right? Because he can't refute it. He can't argue against it. So it makes him crazy. And then he wants to run away rather than try to, face the facts, right? Face the truth. And, let's
community
go on.
Takes these statements seriously. This is a non-physicist. Let's start from that. Seriously.
So I want to go back a bit here.
Period. So the result
that's just stupid.
Okay, hold on. Professor, you're finished?
Yeah.
Okay.
Curt, I'm not sure I want to do this. Somebody who already starts by saying this is just silly, when 80% of the community takes these statements seriously.
So now he's using a fallacy argument, right? He's using what is known as a bandwagon argument, which is I think it's called an informal fallacy, right? 80% agree. It's not about arguments. It's about democracy. Yeah, we are voting on this. We are not arguing. It's a vote we are casting about what we think is correct, right? It doesn't matter. You know, Copernicus was the only one thinking about a heliocentric system, right? Maybe apart from a few old Greeks. But the vast majority of scientists, or whatever they call themselves, thought that there was a Earth-centric, what's it called, geocentric, right? Solar system. So it was 99.9% that thought that any heliocentric system was ridiculous, right? But he was right. It doesn't matter how many who think they're right. That doesn't make it right. And I've found a description of the bandwagon argument or bandwagon fallacy, right? The bandwagon fallacy is an informal fallacy, which means that the illogical part of a bandwagon argument is its content, not its construction. In other words, there's nothing inherently illogical about claiming that something is popular, positive, or effective because it's enjoyed by many. The fallacy lies in claiming that because something is popular, it must be effective, true, or otherwise positive, right? So when Bernardo says 80% says that I think this is the right thing, so he's appealing to a one of the most stupid fallacies you can possibly make, right? And there's a further clarification here. I don't know if it's actually needed in order to... I think you get the point, right? Categorizing it further, the bandwagon fallacy is a fallacy of relevance. That means it's illogical, because the proof that something is true, its popularity, has no actual impact, the proof quote, right, on whether it's true. Something being popular doesn't make it true, right? Doesn't make it so. Just because people think something doesn't make it so, right? Other fallacies of relevance include the ad hominem fallacy and the red herring fallacy. So it's the same family as ad hominem and red herrings, right? Which are two other very common. Maybe ad hominem is the one of the most common fallacies, right? And then here, the bandwagon fallacy is often used to justify or normalize a specific position. Oh, so he wants to normalize it, right? It can also be used to make a position seem more appealing by exaggerating its popularity. Yeah, and it's appealing to group pressure oftentimes, right? Oh, everybody else says that this is the right way to think. Are you alone on this? Are you sitting over there being contrarian, right? You are not supposed to have your own opinion. 80% of people think this. So should you, right? It's the fucking most stupid argument. Right? He's a fucking corrupt idiot, Bernardo Kastrup.
This is a non-physicist. Let's start from that.
No,
Who's
let's not
doing
start from
physical
that.
research, who did not win the Nobel Prize last year. So if that's how he's going to behave, I'll stop right now.
Good.
Somebody who just calls...
If that is how he is going to behave, it's like that living thing, that dissociation is weird over there, right? What a weird personality. It's like he is dehumanizing him, right? He's no longer a person. He's that thing over there, right? Now, you might shoot him in the ass with his own philosophy here, right, Mr. Bernardo Kastrup? He says that human beings don't have free will. That's a red herring, according to him, right? And it's all made up somehow from the big mind that does what it does because it is what it is. And apparently it's creating these dissociations because it wants to know more about what the hell it's doing. So if he says that, and you identify these dissociations by observing metabolism or something like that. So I guess he thinks of Tim Maudlin as a metabolizing dissociation. So the big mind has created a dissociation that Bernardo Kastrup identifies as that object called Tim Maudlin. that the big mind apparently has made because it wants to know more. And so, but Bernardo Kastrup doesn't like this dissociation. It doesn't behave in the way that his idea of what is going on is supposed to, contrary to his own position. Because why is Bernardo's own dissociation more important than that dissociation over there? Maybe he's supposed to clash with that dissociation in order to clarify something according to his weird philosophy, right? But now he wants to, it seems to be, he wants to take or put in effect his own free will, right? And he said, no, I don't want to do this. That sounds like free will to me, right? And it's, of course, he can always come up and say, well, the big mind wants me to not do this anymore, right? He can always go into his mysticism and say his big mind daddy is telling him not to do it anymore, right? I mean, what kind of, I mean, it's, let me put it this way. I'm a little sort of dumbfounded, right? First of all, how dare he do this? Just, stopping a perfectly fine debate. That is a bit sharp, maybe, right? But he's starting out with the sharp pointers, right? He's poking at the other one. He's starting the poking, right? And then he gets, snowflake angry because he gets something back. He can't handle, reality, right? What I get is a notion that Bernardo Kastrup is some kind of, what are they called? What is they called? It's a sort of a mental disorder. When you what are they? Oh, god damn it, man! I my vocabulary today is not not ADHD, but these people who likes to things to be very predictable and ordered and structured and and they can't handle other people too much. What are they called, right? You probably know what I'm talking about. It comes across to me and that he likes things to be, there's one solution. This is the solution. There's only one thing, there's only one mind, right? Or I'm a computer scientist. When I press this button, this happens. When I press that button, that happens. And I have a program is completely structured. This happens, and then this happens, then this happens. That you can't contradict it because the program says so, right? He likes this ordered world. We can't have somebody with diverging opinions. We can't have personalities or individualism or something like that, right? It's this creepy feeling I get with Bernardo Kastrup, right? I think that's the empathy is, there's sort of a lack of empathy in my opinion. There's something that is not right with him, right? There's something that is the problem. And this is where it, well, he wants to get out of this because he feels he can't argue, right? He can't handle somebody arguing for something he doesn't have control over. He needs to have full control. He needs to be in control. Therefore, he likes computers. They can be controlled, 100% control. I control the program. I control the hardware. I control everything. I am the master of this computer, right? But human beings, no, they can't be controlled. They have individual free will, right? They can do and say what the fuck they want. He doesn't like that, right? He would like to envelop everybody in one thing called mind and then say, you are just an insignificant little Dissociation, shut the fuck up and pay attention, right? Just like a computer. The computer shuts up and pays attention. When he presses that button, it does this. When he presses that button, it does that, right?
Who started with the phrase
we even have an
theoretical
interaction.
fantasy.
I'm not going
You're
to
the
do
one
this.
who started with the
Kurt,
insulting language.
I love you, man. I really love you. But this is not in a
Exactly as Tim Maudlin says, he's the one who started with the insulting language. He ridiculed basically every physical stance in these foundations of physics, right? That one is more crazy than the other. Basically, that's what I was hearing, right? So there's something to it. So he started out this, and then he, when Tim Maudlin gets back at him, giving him some of his own medicine, then he, oh no, oh my God, I'm a snowflake princess. I'm running away now. I can't handle this. Oh my, this bad guy, he says this word. I don't like this. I don't like my screen of perception now. No, I don't like this. I want to run away now. I want to not associate with this guy or this conversation, right? I want to be able to say, I'm going to run away now, right? I would like to have extended the same possibility. If I don't want to pay for a hard-on collider, right? I would like to say no, thank you. If I don't want to pay for aircraft carriers, right? I would like to be able to say no, thank you. If I don't want to pay for single mothers' abortions, I would like to say no thank you, right? Basically, the solution would be, I'm not forced to pay any fucking taxes, right? Would you allow me that? Dissociation, right? Okay, when you hear the word silly, right? Then of course, oh my God, I want to dissociate from this, right? But I have to have a gun to my face in order to pay for all sorts of shit that I don't want, right? Would you allow me the same ability to get away from that, right? I think not, right?
appropriate start. This is not, there's no sense of collegiality or respect.
All respect. All respect. I remember the first deconstruction I made of Bernardo Kastrup's idealism, right? He sent me an email, or his friends in Essentia Foundation sent me an email, threatened me with government, right? Which is a threat of murder, ultimately, right? If I proceeded with my deconstructions in the format that I did them, right? Is that respect? Yeah, you may have an idea that I shouldn't deconstruct it, but is it showing respect by threatening people with murder? Does any, counteraction warrant anything? Because then you are in the same position here. You are deconstructing foundations of physics and saying they're kind of ridiculous, right? And then this guy comes back at you and saying, you're silly. Well, in the other case, it was me deconstructing your philosophy. And then you came back at me with government guns instead, right? That is apparently okay. But you want to get away from his word silly, right?
Hard engagement, but not an engagement whose first word is, this is just silly. No,
I was responding to you.
Screw you. I have no respect for you, sir.
Okay,
So,
Bernardo,
Curt,
please.
Yeah, exactly. He was responding to his classification of these foundational physics, right? So it's Bernardo Kastrup, he's the fucking idiot, right? He's an idiot. He wants to frame the other guy. It's a narcissistic approach. It's a completely narcissistic approach. I can say whatever I want because I'm special. Okay, you said the nasty word. Now I don't want to associate anymore. I'm running away. Run away. Run away. Right? Fuck off, man, right?
I'm going to leave. I love you, man. I really didn't want this.
He's just going to leave out. He's just saying goodbye. No need to clarify anything. No, he's just starting off, right? That's also passive aggressive. No, goodbye. goodbye. So the others can sit there and look like idiots, right? It's completely ridiculous. This is childish, man, right? It's not. It's an insult to children, right? Children who are being forced into government schools for 10 years, being inflicted with propaganda and God knows what else kind of shit. But you want to be able to say no thank you to somebody who mentions the word silly when you have ridiculed their whole life's work, basically, right? Fuck off, you POS, man, right? Oh, man. My respect for Kastrup, Bernardo Kastrup can sit on a very, very, very small place, right? Right? A small local place.
I'm willing to do. There is no sense of professional cordiality or respect in this.
God damn it,
And
man,
he's
right? Don't
repeating
you
things that are
fucking
just
virtue signal after you have classified his potential, in a broad sweep, saying these foundational physics are all kind of weird. Then basically you're encompassing whatever he's been doing all his life, right? You're insulting. You're starting out with the insult, and then because he gets back at you, you're behaving like a spoiled little princess, snowflake, right? Give fucking break, man.
stupid to say that the many worlds theory explains the results of these experiments.
He didn't say that was the only one. He didn't say that was the only. That was one of them. He mentioned a few of them. There's this theory and that theory and the other theory, and they all seem to fit. He doesn't say that you have to prove anything with a, and that's the whole thing. Bernardo cannot debate something that he's not in total control of, right? He loses his sense of he has to be in control, right? He has said in some cases that he has, my philosophy I have let go of my need for control, right? And I've become so happy. And now, because he cannot be in control of the debate, right? Then he's sodding off because he has no backbone, right? He can't stand there and he can't sit there and be lectured. He has to be the one in control and dominating, right? And telling other people how it is. He can only talk to people who only shut up and listen. He can't be the one receiving, wisdom or thinkings or opinions or philosophy. He has to be in control. Otherwise, he will be running away because he's a pathetic little backboneless snowflake princess, right?
So I'm not going to participate in this. Okay?
Ciao, buddy.
So I'm sorry. Maybe you can interview us separately, but I'm not going to interact with this individual.
You're the one who started it.
Oh.
Okay. You started with this thing like theoretical fantasies. You started with the insult.
This individual. Oh, man, right? It's dehumanization, right? This peasant individual, that weirdo individual over there. I'm not going to participate. What an arrogant fuck, right? What an asshole, man, right? I'm probably not going to be monetized in this video, right? I never am. I can, reveal that, right? What an arrogant asshole Bernardo Kastrup is, right? What a piece of garbage, man, right? Holy crap, man. And you all you Kastrup followers out there, is that the guy you want to be your priest? Holy moly, man, right? You have to be, halfway crazy already in order to support a guy like that, right? Oh, man.
Language. And I'm not going to sit here and listen to it and not give the truth.
Okay, and then he has this smug smile, right? Bernardo Kastrup. He is it's always those who think they have found the solution. How the whole world has to do it like this. they are always this kind of narcissist, right? They have wrapped themselves up in their own perfect ideas of how things should be solved, right? That's why, in my opinion, they need to be idealists, because that's where they go to say there's only one solution, and it's called mind, right? And that's why I think he behaves like this, because he can't handle other kinds of thinking, right? There's no room for anybody thinking differently. That's why it has this cultish flavor, Essentia Foundation and analytic idealism. It's Bernardo Kastrup, Bernardo Kastrup, Bernardo Kastrup, Bernardo Kastrup, Bernardo Kastrup, Bernardo Kastrup, right? There's no one else. Everybody has to sit there and listen to Bernardo Kastrup, because he's so enveloped in his own thinking that he thinks he's fucking gift to the universe, right? Fuck off, man.
Okay, Curt,
Don't know what you're talking
I'll
about.
keep in touch with
Okay,
you
and the
by
truth is
email.
a bunch of
Okay?
things said are
Take
true.
care, man. Love you.
Yes, I am. I'm so loving. Yes, he's not even going to listen to the other guy, having a say or an excuse or anything. He just, fuck you. I'm out of here. Goodbye. Fuck you. Right? I'm not going to listen. I'm going to talk over you. I can hear you. I can hear you. Bye bye. I love you, but bye bye. What a piece of shit, man. Right? Oh man. Okay.
All right, well, that was rather unfortunate. Sometimes there are clashes between ideas, sometimes between personalities,
Oh, yes.
sometimes there are misreckonings, sometimes
Oh yeah, and so
misunderstandings.
now he
This
has
just
to
happens and
sit there and excuse the big things, right? The academics, we have to excuse them. That's what happens sometimes, right? Let me see if I can find the comments to this one. There's Curt says, "This is what academic conversations often look like." Really? Really? This kindergarten, is that what it looks like? And that is what I'm being forced to pay for? I have to, if I can afford a summer holiday with my children, it has to be a discount version, because I have to pay for these idiots. This is what academic conversation often look like, ordinarily behind closed doors. Yeah. The little people don't need to understand what is actually going on when we sit here and throw, monkey shit at each other, right? Toes about bringing academic conversation, both congenial and contentious, to that of open doors. Oh, I'm so virtuous. Yes. Oh. Okay, I think that's enough, right? You get the point. I mean, do I have to say any more, right? Oh, excuse me. Then you woke up, right? What I will do to keep people awake. No, but it says everything to me about. It says all I need about his mental abilities, right? He's disappointing the one he has. I mean, Curt has probably prepared this interview for weeks, right? The guy, Tim Maudlin, has prepared what he's going to say. He's probably been, we might sit here for 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever. He has prepared himself and get done. But Bernardo, no. You mentioned the word silly. I'm out of here. Bye-bye, I love you. What an asshole, man, right? What a fucking asshole. What an asshole, right? He wants to be taken seriously, right? He wants to be able to say, no, I don't want to associate with this. While at the same time, the little people have to fucking pay their taxes, right? So he can have his hadron collider and make these local experiments that show non-locality or whatever, right? While they can throw monkey shit at some physicist and run away, right? Of course, I have to support that. But he should be able to run away whenever he wants, right? Asshole. Please share, like, and subscribe. Give me a comment. Consider a donation or joining the board. Links below. There's also links to crypto donation on the board if you want to go that route. And otherwise, see you in the next one. Have a nice day.